Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. My name's Dabney and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. Today, I'm going to be talking with Irena Miller, who has a specialty in the moon. And Irena and I met we were in the Anne Ortley mentorship together, right?
Yeah, yeah, lots of
So yeah, we were both learning from Anne Ortley, learning about all the things that we can do to improve our businesses and all this stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the thing that I think I took away from that was the great relationships. And Irena has her own YouTube channel, which I'm going to link below. And today we're going to be talking about your moon sign because September felt like 6 months to me and a lot of people out there. So I think it's a good time to have a refresher on how to do some self-care. And the moon always comes back to, how we can kind of nurture our souls. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about each individual moon sign, but also what more we can learn about our moon. So welcome, Marina.
Thank you so much for having me, Dabney. It is a joy to spend time with you and with your audience and talk all things moon. I love, love, love to dive into it because I find that, we can learn a lot from our sun sign, from our rising sign, where all the other planets are, but that moon moves so fast and it affects us on a daily basis. So being able to dive into it really can I think what I find is it offers us more compassion towards ourselves. Because I don't know about you, but like you said, September felt like 6 months. And between the eclipses and everything else going on, knowing where the moon was that day, knowing where my moon is, because I have a very, very sensitive placement with the moon in Cancer, I was able to protect myself a little bit more. So I didn't feel quite the rise and fall of emotions around me. Doesn't mean that I escaped unscathed, but at least I knew how to navigate it. And I could offer myself grace on those days where I just didn't feel the motivation or energy to show up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, before we were recording, you were sort of talking about the fact that the moon is the fastest moving planet, and that you've kind of studied this sort of Hellenistic philosophy about how the moon comes, like how our soul incarnates. It's a little bit more of a spiritual teaching, but do you want to kind of explain that to the viewers? Because I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, I love this. So this comes from the Hermetic traditions, and I really love to bring in the spiritual practices to astrology because I am very sensitive, intuitive, empathic, and I find that knowing what's going on with the stars helps me navigate those empathic, intuitive moments with more ease. And there's a beautiful idea that the Hermetics really brought forward. And I love the idea that before your soul descended to the earth, the moon really became the midwife of your birth. And what happened, and there's a beautiful movie out there called Soul. I think it's by Pixar. I don't know if you've seen it, Dabney, but there
Mhm.
are all these little balls of light waiting up in heaven to come down to earth. And there's this big slide or chute that they can come down. So it's a really cool image. So as this beautiful little soul comes down through the chute, the first planet that it encounters is wonderful Saturn. So the soul stops by Saturn and says, hey, you know what? Let me pick up some gifts around how I'm going to work with discipline and structure and and really being responsible and present and pragmatic. And then on your soul goes to Jupiter, and when it stops by Jupiter it says, okay, I need to pick up some gifts now around how to be optimistic or to be open to wisdom or to growth or freedom, expansion. And then it keeps descending. And as it descends, it stops by Mars. And Mars is like, okay, what kind of ambition and drive and energy are you looking for? Let's pick up that action. And it stops by, the Earth, well, Venus, and it picks up beauty and harmony. And how are you going to engage in relationships? And then it swings by the sun, your identity, your willpower, your core. What gifts are you going to pick up around there? And then it swings by Mercury, your logic. How are you going to process? How are you going to communicate? And then the very last thing your soul encounters before coming to incarnate into a physical embodiment on earth is the moon. She's the last one you converse with. And I get goosebumps. And she imprints upon you all these beautiful things, essentially your memory. How are you going to wear your emotional body? How are you going to handle stress? How are you going to bond with others? How are you going to nurture yourself? How are you going to work with your own capacity for intuition and those hunches and nudges and inklings, as I call them? So I love that idea that before we're born, the moon knew us, all the planets knew us. But it's kind of like that old saying, I don't know if you've ever heard, when people are like, oh, I must have missed out when God was handing out the gift on singing. I probably went, for a coffee break. And it's kind of that idea that you're putting together, co-creating with the divine, with this universe, this natal promise, because we all pick up different gifts from these different planets. Some people want to be out and singing and shining, and some people want to be behind the scenes with their books and working and studying. But when you start to recognize and realize these things, you can step out of the comparisonitis, which I find, even, oh my gosh, Madonna just did an interview, and she even was saying that she falls into comparisonitis even now, and that it's her spiritual practices that help her to remind her who she is, why she's here. And it enables her to also realize that what she's creating, she's co-creating with the divine. And I feel that this offers such peace. So anyway, I just love that imagery. It's fun, and you can take with it what resonates and leave
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah, the moon is very special. And maybe, you as a Cancer moon and me as my big old sun, I've got 4 planets there. So it is an important planet to us. And it's one of those ones that we recognize it does hold the key in a lot of ways to your happiness, your personal contentment, because you can get everything else right in the world, but if you don't have that kind of personal soul satisfaction, you're never going to quite feel right. You can be the most successful, wealthy person in the world, but if you are not right with your moon, it won't matter. And so, it was interesting. I went on Irena's podcast because she has, like I said, she has her own YouTube channel, but she also has a big presence on Facebook. And as a little thank you, she sent me a moon mapping. And it was really sweet. It was very kind, and I appreciated it. And that was very, Cancer moon of you, where it was really just breaking down everything about my moon. And as an astrologer, it wasn't things that I didn't already know, but it had her own, it put it all in one place, and it had her own interpretation, which was beautiful. And it was kind of like this cheat sheet for your moon, because it talked about, is your moon fast or slow? What phase were you born under? What sign it is in, what house is it in? I mean, she had like all this kind of stuff. And it was really just like this kind of like nice, like 1 or 2 pagers. I don't know how many pages, it's a couple pages.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is beautiful. So I bought one for my husband and my son as well. So that could be something. Let's talk about what's in your moon map. But her moon maps are only $27. So, when we're all kind of feeling like how can we heal and take comfort right now and be settled within our own soul, the moon is really the key in a lot of ways to pulling us out of, fear or depression or all of the things that can just kind of come in on us, like maybe we've been feeling lately, or at least I have. So yeah, do you want to talk a little bit, just briefly, like what's on your moon map, and then let's, talk about why you chose the things you did.
Awesome. So yeah, so one of the first obvious things when we look at the moon is we want to check and see what sign is it in, because just like you said, Dabney, that I love so much, is that if we don't feed our moon, or if we don't satisfy the moon's longings, there is a dissatisfaction in life, and fear and stress can creep in and take over. The moon, especially because it's the fastest moving body for us up above, it can affect us quite quickly. And, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio right now, and people are always like, oh, if you don't like the weather, don't worry, it'll change in a minute. So, the moon itself is changing zodiac signs every 2.5 days, but you were born with the moon in one particular location. And when you start to realize what sign that's in, you can start to understand how you manage stress and you process things in your own way. So for example, you know, a moon in Capricorn, it's very important for them to appear strong and to be the ones who hold it together. So often they're going to refrain from sharing their emotions, even though they are feeling just like the rest of us. They want to be the strong ones because maybe there's that concern of, if I cry and break down, you know, number one, what's that going to help? I always say Capricorns are like, there's no crying in baseball. That's not
Yeah.
going to solve the problem. Good old Tom Hanks movie. But when you learn that about yourself, let's say someone in your life, it comes in and they're like, well, why aren't you emotional about this? You know, why can't you support me? And you realize, well, this is the way my internal nature is. This is the way that I process emotions and feelings. And it also enables you, because the moon is one of those key points when you get into a relationship. Find out the other person's moon sign, whether it's a friend or a love match or a person you work with or for. If you find out they have an Aries moon and they just want to do things like go, 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 but then you've got somebody with a Taurus moon, they're going to be like, whoa, I got to sit with this for a while. If you push me, I will dig my heels even more, and you're not going to get me to move. So when you start to find out what zodiac sign the moon is in when a person was born, it gives you a lot of insider information. Then layer on what phase was the moon in when you were born. This is a really cool thing. This is something subtle that I feel like more and more people are talking about, but it's relatively new, which is if you were born, let's say, with a disseminating moon phase, so it was just after the full moon, you most likely are going to want to tell everybody everything you learn, teach it, share it, show it. But if you were born with a new moon, you're going to be a little bit more reserved. You're not going to want to share it with everyone yet because you're just building something and you're starting to grow. If you were born like right before the new moon, the balsamic phase, it's a very spiritual time that's very drawn inward. And this is that opportunity again to know something about yourself that can offer you grace, that helps you step out of comparisonitis. Because if, let's say, you have peers or friends and colleagues who also have, let's say, the moon in Leo, and they're going out and they're, you know, doing their videos and they're on the stage sharing, giving talks at conferences, but your little Leo moon is a balsamic moon, you know, in that balsamic phase, you might be more reserved and you might shine in smaller areas. You may not want to be in front of the crowd, let's say like a full moon, even a full moon Leo. So these are these nuances. That's why sometimes it's so hard just to read a description of, oh, you know, your moon is a Cancer, so you're emotional and moody and feel. I say that kind of rough because I'm one. But there's a nuance to it. The other layer that's really cool to look into is what house was the moon in when you were born, because that adds a little bit of flavor. So for me, the moon's in Cancer, which makes me extra sensitive, but it's also in the eighth house, which makes me like a psychic sponge. And the biggest thing that I learned, like for the first 3 years of my energy healing training, it was ground. I kind of felt like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. Every time I went to my teacher for a new practice, and I met with her weekly, she was like, we're going to ground. I'm like, wait, I'm ready for the next one. Ground. So when you start to find out where the moon is, what sign it's in, it behaves a little differently, right? Because it's showing up at somebody else's house or location. Like we'll behave one way when we're at home and one way when we're somewhere else, someone else's house. And then finally, well, a couple other things I love to include in this is the speed of the moon, rather. So how fast was your moon moving? Are you someone who's going to want to move quickly? You're agile, emotionally resilient. You're going from one thing to the next. And just as a side note, and I know this is something you spoke about with your teacher in one of your previous videos, and it's in his book, Stephen Forrest, which is like the slow moon versus the fast moon. It has nothing to do with intellect or intelligence. It's just the way that we process emotional data. So a fast moon is going to get hit quick with energy and emotion. They're going to want to act quick. They're resilient. They're fast. I also find that they get the punchline to a joke much faster. I have a slower moving moon, so I kind of need to sit with it. I need to understand it. I need to digest it. I want to take my time with it, and I'll go deep with it. So it's just knowing that about yourself, because some people can move fast. But I always heard growing up, oh, why are you taking things so personally? Why are you so sensitive? Why is that still bothering you? Well, it all comes back to my moon. And I know that about myself, and I can make space for that. And then I get into lunar returns, and that's also a fun thing to talk about, and how to do your moon, which is something we can talk about for each zodiac sign, which is just when you're feeling in stress, what kind of things, actions, energy practices, rituals can you do to feel better and manage?
Beautiful. Yeah. That is ultimately, like, after I got that nice gift from you, I was like, oh, I want to get this for my husband and son, because I think there is something to be said about understanding your loved ones and how they need to be nurtured. And so, like, we want to put our masks on first and know how we need to be nurtured ourselves. But there is something to be said about understanding your loved one's emotional um, blueprint, so you can then work with them and understand where they're coming from, especially if it doesn't fully align, which it doesn't always, right? So let's go through them. Yeah. All
Wonderful.
right. So I know, you know what? Aries always gets to go first. Do you want to go backwards and go Pisces first?
Ooh,
Or
let's do that.
is that too
Yep.
confusing?
Nope, not at all. Let's do that. Let's start with the Pisces. I love
Okay. And so you middle people, you just have to wait anyway. Like, I'm a Virgo moon, like, where I'm always in the middle, so it'll be fine. But
it.
let's make Aries wait.
There you Oh no.
I'm gonna actually try to do timestamps for this, people. I will try. Don't
Oh,
hold me to it, but I will. I know that everyone wants timestamps, and I want to get better at doing that and make it a priority.
ah.
Okay.
Right. So Pisces moon. So think if you know of any Pisces. The Pisces energy, I love. My brother is a Pisces. My son has a Pisces moon. When life gets overwhelming and stressful, there is that need to unplug. And everything has, and let me just put this caveat as we're jumping in, a high vibrational expression and a low vibrational expression. So when the Pisces moon is really feeling overwhelmed and stressed, it's going to want to unplug and kind of step away from the world. And so, if you have a healthy practice where maybe you listen to music or you add water in, because the elements are always a great standby to go with, like swimming or a shower or be by a body of water, that's fantastic. But the music, the daydreaming, the just unplugging, it's sometimes people will say it's a bit of escapism, but it's really just saying, I need to create my own world to retreat into. And sometimes if we're in a lower vibrational state, it might be an unhealthy choice. So I always tell like my Energy Alchemist students, create your mojo list, which is when things get stressful, it's like a healthy choice would be music or swimming or longer shower or, journaling.
Meditation. Don't forget meditation for Pisces.
Meditation, exactly, exactly. So those are wonderful options, most definitely.
Yeah.
And I was
Um,
gonna say, anything else that you would add, Dabney?
does Anne have a Pisces moon? I can't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, I feel like she's always talking about how she, like, loves to just curl up with her cat, read a book, drink
Mm.
some tea, take a bath. Like, those are some good Pisces moon things. My best friend, hi Kelly, she's a Pisces moon, and she's like, she has to meditate every day. Um,
Yeah.
which I would love that discipline. That's something, as my
Oh,
Virgo moon says, put that on the list.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now, so, all right. So Pisces people, please don't grab a glass of wine. Please just grab a nice
Cup
Epsom
of
salt
tea.
bath
Yeah.
or meditate. Okay. So now we move backwards. We've got Aquarius.
Aquarians, my brother's an Aquarian moon. And the really fun thing about Aquarian moons that I find is if you have one of them in your life, give them space when they're stressed. Don't crowd them. Freedom, independence is very important. So being able to kind of, again, step away from the world and just go. I find that that's made a huge difference in navigating a relationship with an Aquarius moon is when you realize that they can feel things quite intensely. And because they're ruled by the element of air, they could get stuck in their head. So, another great space, to have like a moving meditation or to just be out there driving even, I found. Just get out of the house, go for a walk, give yourself some space, somewhere where you can be away from other people. And it's a nice thing. This is something fun too. I have a friend whose husband does best rather than having dialogue about different, points of, stressful items in the relationship. She'll text him first. And because she texts him, he can read the information. It allows him time and freedom to kind of digest the information and process it. And then he can come together later and have the conversation. So that's another cool thing. You can use technology with the Aquarian moon to help you kind of process the stress as well.
That's a really good, that's a good observation. What popped into my head is like, like watching the sci-fi movie or like, watching Star Trek or something that's like somewhat like an escape for you to kind of make sense of things. Like, because a lot of those sort of sci-fi, um, there's a lot of symbolism in there.
Yeah.
But you can process it in a different way, like a unique way. When Aquarian moons are sort of off track, what do you caution against?
Well, one of the things is alienating people. There's that feeling of, nobody understands me. I don't fit in. I don't belong. I feel other. The Aquarian is meant to do things differently. They are a way shower, especially into this new age. They help us see things in a different viewpoint or quote unquote outside the box. So sometimes it can be lonely, and I think sometimes very isolating. And for the Aquarian friends, what I would encourage you to do is, like Dabney, you said, it's so beautiful. Give yourself the ability to see things differently. I studied with this marketer, really fun. She's a CMO of a great big company. And she said, you know how she predicts market trends? She must have an Aquarian moon. She watches sci-fi. And I think it was Year After Year on HBO, something like that. It was a British show.
Okay.
And that's kind of like she'll watch those kind of forward thinking television shows, and it enables her to kind of get that pulse. But you think about Star Trek, how many things like, their little handheld, and I used to watch it. Like little recorders, right? They were using,
Right.
cell phones, and that whole idea, and even community and connection. So it's interesting for the Aquarians. A lot of Aquarian people in my life, what I find that they do is they create their community of soul family, ones that get them and understand them. So that's kind of what I would caution against, is just watch for isolation. And if you feel like you're all alone and very different, create your community, the ones who
Beautiful.
understand and get it.
Beautiful. Okay, as we move backward in the zodiac, we find Capricorn, which you sort of touched on a little bit, but let's talk
Yeah.
about like the high expression of Capricorn moon and how
Yeah.
they can take care of themselves because they do need to feel in control. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, the Capricorn, I love a Capricorn moon. That's my complement or opposite. And whenever there's a stressful moment and everything's hitting the fan, to have a Capricorn moon in your corner is fantastic, especially if you're Cancer moon and you're breaking down. The Capricorns, they hold it together. There is this sense of responsibility. They're ruled by Saturn. So they show up with this great ability to be pragmatic and down to earth. They become very, and even though I know it's kind of more of a Virgo word, they're all earth signs, they become effective and efficient in the way that they're utilizing their energy, in the sense of crying's not going to help, getting upset isn't going to help. Let's come up with a big plan. And so they can help you when you're feeling very emotional. So if you have a Capricorn moon, you might notice that you're the one people come to when they're in crisis. Like, help me fix this, help me come up with a plan to get out of this. So I find that the Capricorn moons can really put people at ease, because from a very high level, they help to find solutions. And then when it's expressing kind of in its lower form or like lower vibration, it can show up in a sense of, feeling like it's got to restrict and restrain the emotions so much in order to appear strong. So sometimes to the outside world, they can appear a little cold. The Aquarian moons too can be like that, because in ancient traditions, they're also ruled by Saturn. So they can just, people other can feel like, why are you not feeling this? Why aren't you showing any emotion? They feel it. It's all underneath. So in taking care of yourself, if you have a Capricorn moon, it's a wonderful thing if you give yourself a safe time and space to experience the feelings and the emotions. So knowing that you're with a trusted person where you can just break down and be, and know that you don't have to be the strong one in that moment. It's a very nice thing. I have friends who are Capricorn moons who are so steadfast and strong for everyone. But every now and then to know that they don't have to be the strong one makes a big difference.
Yeah, and when your emotions are suppressed in that way, it can come out as fear and anger, or it becomes a fearful place, and that can come out as anger. And so there is somewhat of a reputation of that coldness or that kind of stern, just kind of get it together, rather than kind of recognizing they may feel that same helplessness, but it's not as easily accessed.
Yeah.
So, all right, now we go into Sag, right?
Sagittarian moons. So much fun. I was talking with my Sagittarian moon friend this morning. She loves to travel. So
That's it.
it's never
That's the highlight. That is the word for a Sag moon, by the way, is adventure and travel. Just it's
yeah.
universal. And if you want to comment below if you have a Sag moon and you don't like adventure and travel, I would like to meet one of you someday. Okay.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
doesn't have that as your MO.
Yeah, well, and see, I get chills. You bring up a really good point, Dabney. So this is where those nuanced layers come in. If you have like a balsamic Sagittarian moon, right? So it's in the balsamic phase, right before the new moon, and it's in the 12th house. You might like to be an armchair traveler, right? Like watch it from your television or your book, maybe, or maybe it's a spiritual retreats like the Himalayas you're drawn to, the caves and whatnot. But yeah, there are these nuances because it is interesting. So the Sagittarian moon, yes, travel, of course, is one of the big ones. You know, if you get stressed and you're overwhelmed, it's like, all right, time for a vacation. Let's go somewhere. But to give yourself those breaks, movement is key. You know, going back to the elements, Sagittarius is a fire element. So think movement. I got to go. I need my freedom. I always think of the black stallion when I think of Sagittarians out running free across the fields, similar to the Aquarian freedom that the Aquarius requires. But that Sagittarian freedom needs a space to move. It needs to really be able to be honest with themselves and with the people around them. The thing that I love about my Sagittarius friends is that they tell you if you've got spinach in your teeth or toilet paper hanging out of your pants. So also knowing that you have the ability to tell it like it is and sometimes be a little blunt. If that Sagittarian moon is expressing in a way that's kind of like in its lower vibrational state, it might want to just run and not have the conversation. So knowing, you know, if you're a Sagittarian moon or you have a partner who is saying, okay, I need to have that freedom and space in order to just move, and then I can come back later and have the conversation. And to do it even while you're moving, walking side by side. Some of the best conversations I know with my kids happen when now they drive, unfortunately, but when I'd have them trapped in the car next to me, you know, and you could have that side by side conversation rather than tummy to tummy. There's a lot more that's shared.
Yeah. Yeah, Sagittarian moons can get very caught up in their own ideas as well.
Mhm.
And so one of the cautions, if you have a Sagittarian in your life, understand that they really are quite passionate about their opinions or their beliefs. And that can be negative or positive. Like they have to sort of double down because it can feel somewhat existential sometimes if they're being questioned.
Yeah.
And so that's something to sort of consider, if you have a Sagittarian moon, like that maybe you may have to look at a different perspective sometimes as well. And not everybody sees things through the same lens as the often optimistic Sagittarian moons. Okay. All right. We're moving backwards now to Scorpio.
Yay, Scorpion moon. This is my husband. So it's so fun, right? You get to know all the moons firsthand. But the Scorpio moon is very interesting. They can be very reserved, even though it's a water sign, even though it's very connected to emotions, feels very deeply, highly intuitive, empathic. They have come, Scorpios, into the world to learn how to put up healthy boundaries. But sometimes when they're new to it, and I think this is an interesting take, other people might think that Scorpios, they're just all walled up. And that's what they tend to do when they don't have other skills or processes or methods to protect themselves, because they feel so deeply and they're so incredibly loyal. When you have a Scorpion moon in your world, they are loyal to the death, quite literally, and even beyond. They'll follow you into eternity from life to life. But the thing about it is they can sometimes put up walls, and well, they do, rather than healthy energetic boundaries in the beginning. So they can be harder to get to know. They're more reserved about sharing their emotions and their feelings, because once they do, they know that they have opened everything. They're very passionate as well. It's a fixed sign, so they tend to get very set in their views as well. And they can also, you know, really contain anger. So if we talk about watching out for the Scorpio moon, what they tend to do is they just take it, and they keep going down with it. And then eventually one little thing, like you left the toilet seat up or you squeezed the toothpaste wrong, everything blows. And they have a tendency not to remember exactly what the hurts and pains were, but they hold them, and it can become a resentment. And then you have to watch for that one little trigger that causes everything to blow. My friends and I, my astrology buddies, we kind of joke. We're kind of like, is this a Mars angry or a Pluto angry? Because like Aries is ruled by Mars in modern astrology. And when they get angry, they'll blow and it'll be a flashpoint. They'll get very angry, maybe stomp, yell, shout, and that's it. Pluto, who rules Scorpio in modern astrology, boy, they can simmer for a long time. And then when they blow, it's annihilation. Like that's it. That's the end. Everything down to ashes, all bridges burned. So to be able to recognize that as a Scorpio moon, that it's important to address the hurts as they come up. Otherwise, they just pile, until there's an explosion, and it's usually messy and destructive. So
Beautiful. Really interesting. That's some really good perspective on Scorpio that you have firsthand experience with, that I think is probably quite helpful for other people as well. So yeah, and sexuality for Scorpios actually is a bonding experience and a way to take care of yourself. And also, go ahead and pick a tarot card, or, if you need something that's going to give you that, when you were talking about that, sort of like the steam release valve, like something that can help you process maybe in smaller doses.
mm-hmm.
And astrology is a great tool for that. Okay, now we go to Libra.
The Libra moon. So the Libra moon is that weighing, right? They love to see things from all vantage points. And so when the Libra moon is getting overly stressed, or they're feeling just the world coming down on them, they might seek out people's opinions and kind of try to see it through their lens and their lens, which is how they get that terrible reputation of being indecisive. What they're trying to do is find the sweet spot. So the Librans have come here to try to find that fulcrum, that balance or equanimity. And in order to do that, sometimes they have to go to extremes. And so one of the things about the Libra moon is that to give yourself the time and space to process and to take in the data and the information. It's ruled by air, so the mind and the intellect is going to be a piece to this, can bring great compassion towards yourself. So like practices that I love for the Libran moons is actually, yes, gather the information and the data, see what other people are doing, but give yourself like a time frame, right? Or like, I'm going to talk to X amount of people, give it a container. Otherwise, you'll just feel like you're spiraling and it's data overload or information overload more so. And so that way you give yourself the deadline to make a decision. Balancing poses like yoga practices are really great, I find, for Libra moons, because what it does is it takes them a little bit out of their intellect and into the physical body to embody the information they've collected and to start paying attention to the physical clues in the body of this is the right thing, like trusting my gut instinct. Because it's easy to be swayed or gaslit with the Libra moon, when you're taking in so much data and information and you want to keep the peace and you don't want to upset the apple cart. So I love a yoga practice, or, journaling, of course, for an air sign is great. Talking it out with a trusted friend or therapist, fabulous for the Libra moon. And those kinds of actions can make it much easier to navigate this world with the Libra moon.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about that, like how Libra and moons, like they do rely so much on their friends. And they do, but at the same time, their friends become, it can become a source of confusion as well. And so I think that that's really good advice to kind of check in with themselves and say, like, am I having a hard time making a decision, or do I also just need to like go to a museum and like be surrounded by beauty and like know that there's some good in this world still too.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go to Virgo.
Yay, that's you.
Yay.
So the Virgo moon, I love the Virgo moons because they have that ability to really get into the details. So when the Virgo moon becomes stressed or overwhelmed, they might find that that wonderful mercurial influence, Mercury ruling Virgo, has a tendency to go into the mind. And there's just the thinking of like, what about this and what about that, and down the rabbit hole. Do you find that, Dabney, when you're
Yeah, no, I have a very hard time shutting off. I had an ex-boyfriend once that said, I see the squirrel running on the treadmill.
I love it. And the cool thing about the Virgos, though, is that they help us find what the rest of us miss, because the Virgos have the ability to be patient enough to see the missing parts or the broken links. They have that ability to process all the data and the information. So the beautiful earth sign of the Capricorn, where it can help you with the problem solving from the big solution point or the big viewpoint, the Virgos, I find, help you from like, okay, well, actually, I'm going to help roll up my sleeves and we are going to put the plan into play. Like, we're going to build it, we're going to do it. And they are very caring. Virgo energy has this call of, I find, making a difference. There's this desire innately of wanting to help. And the cool thing about the Virgo energy, which is, the complement to the Pisces, is that the Pisces tend to give themselves so much they lose themselves. The Virgos, with that earth element present, help to bring it back down to earth. And they start to realize, I can be of service and I can help, but there's only so much energy I have. So how can I be effective and efficient about this? How can I be there for other people, but to be mindful that I don't lose myself in the relationship? So it's something that is a practice that's being learned by the Virgos. So if you are feeling like you're giving and giving and giving and your batteries are running low, then connect with the element of earth. And earth, getting outside, grounding practices like barefoot on the earth, a hand on the tree, having a little bit of salt on your tongue, like kosher salt, something chunky, or Celtic sea salt, can be very soothing. It can start to calm the mind. But I find, because you've got Gemini air, who's also ruled by Mercury, the way to process the stress is the Virgo, to calm the mind, is being out in Mother Nature and feeling that Schumann resonance from the center of the earth. That is that heartbeat of Gaia, of Mother Earth, to calm you. And that whole idea of forest bathing, where just simply being in the trees or around water is going to naturally shift the ions in your space to go from a state of stress into a state of calm. And I find that can be helpful. And Dabney, you firsthand, what have you found?
Well, we are very solution oriented. I think we are the sort of fixers of the zodiac, people with, strong Virgo placements. But it can be exhausting, like you said. And so I think there is like, how can you get a break from the mental energy? Because there is like a never ending to-do list. And the never ending to-do list to some degree is, I was talking to Christopher Renstrom on one of these, is an avoidance of everything being like, of being helpless.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I think this past, while I was, eclipse season, I organized all my closets and drawers. And that's a very like Virgo and moon, like, okay, I need to be constructive. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here and just spin out. So being constructive. But there is the cautionary tale. So I think the highest expression of that really truly is getting out into nature and accepting that you can't fix everything. That was a Freudian slip. I said I can't fix anything. All right, let's move
I
on
love
to
it.
Leo moons.
Leo moon. Oh my goodness, Leo moon. So the Leo, oh, I feel like Leos wear their heart on their sleeves. They are the lions and lioness of the jungle, and they take their role of leader of the pack with great pride. Quite literally, there's a lot of pride in making sure that when they show up, they're showing up in such a way that sometimes they can even, and I'll kind of step back for a second into leader of the pack, they can be a reluctant leader. There's this feeling of being kind of pulled sometimes into the spotlight. My brother's a Leo, and that's his sun sign, though. And the moon behaves differently than the sun. But when the Leo moons are stressed, it's so important to be tender with them because one of the things that I found is that if you were to ever embarrass or speak poorly of a Leo in front of them, it's the worst thing you can do in the world. They want you to be proud of them. They want you to think highly of them because they put so much of their time and their energy into presenting well, into showing up well. You can usually tell Leo risings because they have great hair. Really, any Leo, a moon or a sun too. They just they shine. They've got an internal radiance, and they've got great locks, great mane of hair. But they put a lot of time and energy into the way that they present themselves. They take care with their environment in the sense that they take pride in what they do and in their home. They look out for their people. They are very loyal. They will go to bat for them. I have a friend who has a Leo moon, and when she was working in corporate, she, as long as people were loyal to her and they were honest with her, she would go to bat for them. If they made a mistake or if something went wrong, she would stand up for them and protect them with a fierceness and a ferocity. And so the Leo moon will look out for its people and is so protective. But when it's stressed, it's like a mortal wound. There can be a sense of feeling shame or hurt. And so then there's this feeling of wanting to be able to make things better. I have a fun story that I don't know if I should share, but I had a friend in elementary school, so I won't share names, and they have a Leo moon. And they always felt badly because you remember back in the day, like when we were growing up, Dabney, they used to have like my student is an honor roll student at so and so elementary school.
Mhm. Yeah.
They always felt badly because their grades were never quite good enough to get that. So they found one somewhere like lying on the, playground floor at recess, and they picked it up and they brought it home and presented it to their parents. And their
Oh,
parents were like, "Oh my God, this is great." Not realizing that like back in the day, the paper report card came home and you have to sign it. But they didn't realize that. And they were just so happy that finally they could make their parents proud. So sometimes I feel like the Leos, they love with such abandon that they really love to feel that love back. It's like the Pink song, they love love. And so sometimes I think when they're in that lower state, they might kind of try to stretch the boundaries and say, "Oh, I made the honor roll." And you don't have to do that. Just know that, Leos, to be loved, you don't have to be something extra in order to receive that love.
yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because we do think of Leo as being this kind of extroverted sign and like all about me and stuff like that. They get that reputation, but it is more nuanced than that for sure. My husband's a Leo moon and he is not visibly extroverted. I think he's internally extroverted. And but on some level, like he does need that, like that approval for all of that what he invests. And so that's for Leo moons out there, make sure you are surrounding yourself with the right people, because that is going to be so important to you to have people that can validate your efforts, because Leos are kind of people pleasers on some level, which we don't think about it that way, but they carry that leadership heavy burden.
Mhm.
All right, let us back up. What do we got before Leo? We have Cancer.
Yeah, Cancer moon. Woo! So Cancer moons, boy, they feel. They're very empathic, very intuitive. They're the ones that will cry at the commercials. They are the ones that most likely growing up, you've heard why do you take it so personally? It's not happening to you. Why are you so sensitive? It's challenging for a Cancer moon because they do want to take care of others. They want to nurture their natural caregivers. But when they become stressed and overwhelmed, and so let me back up when I say natural caregivers, because that can show up in a lot of different ways, right? You might want to feed someone. I unfortunately am not the kind of Cancer moon that likes to feed people. Which my Taurus husband is probably very sad about because he likes food. But that's not the way that I care. But so it shows up again, right, in those nuanced ways. So this is where like knowing what kind of what phase the moon's in, what house it's in. So like the way that I show up with a nurturing, caregiving way is like if I see somebody in pain, I will immediately come to help and see how I can be of assistance. Like, can I run healing energy for you? Let me look at your chart and see what transits are going on. Here, hold this crystal. Let me give you this. And so it can show up in different ways, the nurturing and the caregiving. But when the Cancer moon gets way out of balance, as a water sign who's feeling all the emotion, they need to retreat. So, like the Scorpio, they've got their little shells, the little homes on their back that they carry, and they need to just nest at home to feel safe, secure, and steady. So, if you are in deep stress or distress as a Cancer moon, give yourself that time to be alone or around your loved ones, your family members, that's even better, your fur babies, and kind of hunker down and feel safe and steady. And that can make a big difference.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now we go to Gemini, which is way different energy.
Yeah, Gemini ruled by air and also Mercury. So when not like the Virgos, the mind can go, 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 go. And they're going to want to talk. So when the
Yeah.
beautiful Gemini moon gets stressed, they may chatter like a chatterbox. That nervous chatter. I find that with the Mercury moon, one thing when you're stressed is make your hands busy to quiet your mind down. So it could be journaling. I have a friend who with a Gemini moon, and she loves to do like paint by number artwork, and that really soothes her mind. It gives her she's actually a triple Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. So lots of Mercury. Give the hands something to do. So I love that example, like what you said, Dabney, that the Virgos organize and they do something. Knit, crossword puzzles, but make the hands busy. And that can make a big difference because otherwise what happens is you're trying to go to sleep and the mind keeps racing. Breath work for a Gemini moon is very powerful and impactful. Box breathing is one of those ones that everybody talks about, but there's so many different ways to breathe. And even if you were to just make your exhalation a little longer than your inhale, that will lower your blood pressure and calm your mind. Legs up the wall is a great yoga pose too. It'll calm the mind.
Yeah. My Gemini people in my life, there is a wanting more information. There is that, but also there is like a lot of wisdom with just reading, like giving yourself that ability to just like read a good fictional novel.
Mm.
They might need some escape, where it's not so much like bouncing from one idea to the next, like kind of like a through line, like that's a good kind of self-care thing, to just kind of allow yourself and join a book club, because then you can have intellectual discussions, but it's about someone else's life, not your own. you know
Yeah.
like I find Geminis tend to like fiction, like, and I'm my Virgo moon, I like to read, but I like nonfiction. Like I read all nonfiction. And my mom, who's a Gemini, like cannot understand that at all because she loves fiction. And so again, here is where it can be really helpful to understand your loved ones and what their emotional makeup is as well. All right, now we go to Taurus.
Yay, Taurus moon. Yeah, about the food. Surround yourself with beautiful things. Taurus ruled by Venus, just like Libra. The beautiful things do make a difference. I did this process. It was a shamanic like training process. And the beautiful thing when we got to Taurus was I was just so blown away when we went deep into that energy to feel it and experience it, how much the tactile, physical, pretty shiny creature comforts make a difference. And so whether that's wearing something shiny or surrounding yourself in beauty or having a really good comfort meal, good wine, good music, just to be able to know I'm safe. This is predictable. So, you could do that. Like, I know this to be true. The Taurus energy loves predictability, loves to know what's coming. They are also an incredibly loyal sign. So the thing about Taurus is when it gets out of balance is that they might become a little bit more stuck in their ways or stubborn. They might kind of want to sit with the emotion and they might not want to get up off the couch. So to be able to channel that into a constructive way, which is, again, you create the container, which is like, okay, for the next, like today, I think Anne calls it like the procrastination days. Today will be the procrastination day, or today will be the day where I sit in my favorite jammies with a sleeve of Oreo cookies and I watch a good movie. you know but it's important that the Taurus moon has the tactile, that they can feel it as an earth sign, very, very tangible. It's a lot of fun. Think
Yeah.
good food.
Balance your checkbook, which we don't balance our checkbook anymore, but like looking at your finances and like having kind of a financial plan can also really provide comfort to
Yes.
Tauruses when they're starting to spin out, especially about, what's going to happen with this financial problem or whatever. That can be something that I found. Isn't that funny when you say that? Like no one balances a checkbook anymore, but you get what I mean, which is just kind of look at your bank account and or try one of those apps that like shows you what you're spending. So then you can like kind of say, okay, yeah, like I'm doing okay. You just want something to reassure yourself. But also to your point, it's okay to have some chocolate too. So, all right, Aries, I'm really proud of you. You've been patient. Good job,
Yay!
Aries. I know that's not your strong suit. It's your turn. Aries
Yay,
man.
Aries.
We
My
love
daughter,
you.
yeah, I know, seriously, and we do love you. The Aries moon, my daughter has an Aries moon, and this was fabulous to know going in. I can't remember who I was listening to, but they were talking, it was an astrologer, and she was talking about if every parent had their child's natal chart when they were born, like had it done, life would be so much more different because the thing about the moon too is that that's how we express in our childhood. We're more like our moon sign than our sun sign. We're kind of growing into that sun energy. And so if you know your child's moon sign, you will parent them completely differently. So my daughter with 29-degree moon Aries, so it moon at 29 degrees Aries, was quite an adventure, let me say. He was a toddler. So much so that I thought that nanny, like 911, the nanny cam was going to come out at the grocery store when she had a complete meltdown. The thing about the Aries moon is that they'll feel emotion fast and quick and it'll build up and they need to get it out. So Aries, fire sign ruled by Mars, move your body.
Yeah.
Anne Ortley had a great way of saying it. She had a client with an Aries moon and they lived not far from a gun range. And she said, okay, go down to the gun range and, shoot a couple plates or whatever, or the Aries, they just need to get it out of them. Punching bags are great, like, kickboxing class. But the Aries is going to be fast, quick, and then it's done. To nurture that moon so that it doesn't get to the point where you scare everyone around you when the energy gets really big and you need to emote and let it out. Find healthy ways to channel it and be okay knowing that you are passionate and fiery and you're going to want to act quick. You come up with a plan and like, boom, you go. Act now, think later. If you're hanging out with the Virgo moon, they're going to want to like think about it for a while. Come up with a plan. Like, why are you taking action? Like you're leaping before you look. So the Aries people in my life, I find that giving them the ability to have a safe space to let it out. If can go with the Scorpio moons too. Sometimes their language gets quite, pirate-like or sailor-like, they have that potty mouth. But giving them that space, it's quite a lot of, my daughter, she's so sweet and so cute, but from a very young age, she found out from her older brother some of those words that maybe a 3-year-old shouldn't have been saying. But every now and then, in a good, safe space, it really does help you kind of
Well,
learn.
that would explain my sailor mouth because I have a Mars conjunct my moon, and I have the worst sailor mouth. And then on top of that, too, I have a very explosive temper that just settles immediately. And I avoid that by exercising at least 6 times a week. So I am not an Aries moon. However, I can understand a little bit about that kind of Martian energy. And so I would concur, like, they have to get their bodies moving because it is too explosive. And so, they need those endorphins from whatever form of, weightlifting, rowing, running, whatever it is. Otherwise they might blow, and like they can be, intimidating and scary to other people. And who don't have the ability to process anger as much as, like, they kind of get like, well, everyone gets angry. Angry is a healthy thing. But not all the signs get that. And it is about balance, of course, because every sign can be scary in their own ways. So yeah, Virgo moons can be very critical. Okay, but I love that there's like a different flavor. So this is just kind of a basic, but if you're kind of interested in this and you want to know more about your own moon, like what phase it's in, and once if you get Irena's report, she does them all by hand. I think she's written a lot of the material, but she combines them by hand. So it's a really great deal for $27. And then I have Stephen Forrest and I did a video, which I can link here too, about the phases of the moon. So, you can learn more about yourself during this time and your loved ones. That's what I think is, like you said, how you parent, how you are with your spouse, like all those things really, really matter. Well, this has been good. It's good to do a little moon check-in. So thank you, Irena.
Thank you for having me, Dabney. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you get together with other people and like do kind of a moon deep dive too, right?
Yeah.
You've
Yeah, I
got
have
a
a moon
community
club.
about that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a moon club where I get together with a group of empaths and intuitives, and we talk about the moon and we harness the energy of the moon from cycle to cycle, both with new moon and full moon, and the intuitive and spiritual practices to really help work with the energy so we don't feel like life is happening to us, but we have a way to use the moon as a timing tool as well to know when to take action, when to rest, when I have a lot of entrepreneurs in my group. So they're launching programs and products and they're trying to figure out, when do I share with the world? When do I hold back? Why is this, September so crazy? Oh, the eclipse is hitting me. So we really dive deep into that. And if people are more interested in finding out about that, they can always just go to the irenamiller.co/club and learn all about that, or my website, irenamiller.com. And I have everything listed there too.
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning more about your own personal moon, I highly recommend you look into Irena's work because that's really the focus of her work, which is beautiful. So thank you for joining me. And as
Thank you.
always, there is a reason and a season for it all, and the universe is conspiring to help us. So take care of your moon. Bye.